It's like, geez, man, how did I get here? A lot of these things were just supposed to happen. So this is the image of what this era is creating.
I understand his like concern and wanting to miss out, but once again, I feel like a large part of the issue here, not that being a Zoomer doesn't have unique problems, but I'm going to be somewhat anti-Zoomer / anti-incel here. Not this guy is an incel, but I feel like this is a very defeatist mindset. And once again, like, you're ruminating a lot. Why young men aren't growing up?
So I just turned 20. Technically, I was born in 2003 or whatever, but I don't really feel like it. I feel more like I'm 16. I also look more like I'm 16, but that's probably just genetic. The point is, mentally, I'm like a 16-year-old. And that's what I said in court, but the jury really wasn't having it. And I got charged with something about statutory. So I had to flee the scene. I drove deep into the mountains because I really don't want to go to jail on account of the fact, you know, the fellas in there might try to get my ass. On my journey, I spotted a large tree, a tall tree I decided to climb so I could scout my surroundings and make sure none of the authorities were after me. It was the first time I climbed a tree in a while.
I mean, I haven't climbed a tree in a while. When was the last time I climbed a tree? Actually, I think when I did a video with John from Fish Tank, I think we climbed either a tree or like a telephone pole or something to see if we could do it. But I think we both climbed a tree or a telephone pole. It was quite invigorating. Quite nice. It was quite fun.
I used to really love climbing trees. When I finally reached the top,
lots of the women these days are climbing lots of trees, if you know what I'm saying.
I looked around and I didn't see anybody, only the landscape. I reached for my phone in my pocket, but I realized I didn't have it. It was down there recording me climbing the tree. So now I'm on top of this tree, and I don't have any constant simulation to silence my Zoomer brain from thinking thoughts. So now they're right in front of me, and I start to break down. Not like I'm crying or anything gay like that. Just, you know, it's all inside. I realized that I should have climbed more trees. I know I'm still young, I still have a lot of time, but in many ways, it's too late. Not just too late to climb trees, but too late to go sleep over with my friends, have conversations into the night.
Oh my God, I was thinking about this recently, man. Because I was thinking, like, what was the happiest time in my life consistently, right? Like, what was the happiest pure time in my life, okay? Like, I was talking with Wendigoon about this. And I think my answer was that the happiest consistent time in my life when things are at least like the most carefree time, the most whimsical time even, was when I was like 12 or 13 years old at sleepaway camp for a week, right? No responsibilities, nothing to worry about. It was just me and a bunch of other, you know, I was 12 or 13, I think. Me and a bunch of other basically kids, and we were just a summer camp, and like we didn't give a about anything. The idea of a job was so far away in our minds. The idea of a job even existing was so far away. We didn't have money, but there was also nothing to buy, so it didn't really matter. All the food was provided for us, and it was like, I mean, it wasn't like amazing 5-star food, but it was honestly, it was really good. I didn't mind it. Every day we were eating like eggs and bacon and like biscuits and sausage, pancakes, okay, French toast. What else do you need? Every day for breakfast we were eating that. And then the rest of our day would be spent like science camp. I did not go to science camp. The rest of my day would be spent like kayaking around in the sand, making sand castles, doing like arts and crafts projects, playing manhunt and kick the can, roasting marshmallows. And this was every day for a week. Like this was it was such like a carefree time of my life. But like it was so, there was nothing even in my mind to think about, right? There was no homework. Homework did not exist. There was no responsibility. It was just around all day. And it was like great. It was excellent. Another thing that was really fun was sleepovers, okay? We don't do sleepovers anymore. What happened to sleepovers, dude? Okay? This is going to sound gay. Sometimes I just want to have a sleepover with my friends, okay? But I feel like the only time I've had sleepovers with my friends as an adult is we get like up, we get drunk, and then we can't drive home, so we have to sleep at someone's house. What about the sleepovers without drugs, okay? Where 4 guys get together, and they play video games all night until they pass out and eat candy and order pizza, okay? That was sick. That was legendary. That was amazing. That was a crazy time in my life. There was no pretense of sex. There was no pretense of drug use, okay? Because if you're sleeping over with a girl, you're probably going to fuck And if you're sleeping over with a guy sleeping over, you're probably getting drunk, unless you're gay, in which case you are having sex with them. And I guess you can still do it, technically, but it doesn't really happen. But you know who I did have a sleepover with? Okay, I have had sleepovers as a YouTuber. At Oompaville's house, Wendigoon and I were sleeping in a bunk bed. Oh my, I felt like I was 14 again. It was excellent, okay? Sleeping in a brushing your teeth together, talking late into the night and playing video games. Not a drug or a phone in sight, okay? It was excellent, okay? It's never going to hit the same as a grown-up. It hit pretty close, to be honest with you. The problem with being a grown-up is you have to go back to the real world after. But when you're a child, when you're in middle school, you just go back to middle school, which doesn't matter. It was excellent. It was excellent, okay? You want him so bad? What makes you think I don't have him? Love wins, chat. Love wins.
Laughing, waking up their parents and pretending like we're asleep when they walk in the room. Too late to come home from school and hop on Xbox Live with all the homies. Too late to go back to school, because as much as it sucked, that's where all the boys were. And now they're kind of all gone. Too late to feel innocent high school love. Too late to be a kid, because I guess I could still climb trees, but it wouldn't be the same anymore.
I don't know if this part is ironic, but like ruminating on not having high school love is so gay. Like being upset that you weren't like cool in high school. Like I just, if you're past it, who gives a who cares? Who cares? I have never once post high school thought, man, I wish I was cooler in high school. I've never once thought that. I've never once thought, man, I wish my high school experience was better. Who gives a it's high school. It doesn't matter, okay?
I used to do it just...
You did the same thing? What I did is I pined for a time when I had no responsibility and it was fun. I don't want to go back. If I hadn't had that, I wouldn't be thinking like, man, I missed out. So I wouldn't give a I don't care.
Because I like doing it. And now I do it to avoid being convicted.
Dude, you know what happened to the kids that were cool in high school, that I knew in high school, okay? They're not that cool anymore. Some of them are, but a decent amount of them are not. Okay, they're not. They're not that cool. The people that are really having a good time for my high school class was like the valedictorian, the salutatorian, and all the nerds. They're having a really good time.
As a sex criminal. But hey, I guess that's just growing up. I don't feel ready. I want to go back. But
I hear people say things like, man, I wish I went to prom. Who gives a about prom, bro? Who gives a about prom? Who gives a oh, I'm so sorry. I missed out on my high school graduation. What, you really want to walk the aisle in your school gymnasium with your little hat and your tassels? Be like, I don't know.
Time keeps moving. In fact, that continually moves faster as you get older, which is a real dick.
Kobe's joking about statutory. Yeah, I wonder, is the guy in a YouTube video with 1 million views joking or not joking about his confession to statutory? What do you think? What do you think? I'm finally awake for a stream. Can you make the VODs for members playable without the screen on? It's not my choice. That's YouTube. It's not up to me. Sorry, bro. I have been considering moving the VODs to Patreon soon, though.
Move by.
So if I do that, you guys will have a decent heads up. There will be like a transitionary period between when they're on YouTube versus Patreon. I've been thinking about that.
You know, the Lord. It's a well-known psychological phenomenon that time seems to move faster as you get older. But once I realized why this happens, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. It's because the passage of time is proportionate to your memory. When you're younger, time seems more dense because the things you experience are new and your brain memorizes them as such. And when you're older, going on your daily life, you have less and less new experiences. So during the day, it might not seem fast, but that's why you can blink and look back at the last 5 or 10 years and feel like it's been no time at all, like nothing's really happened. That's just the general concept, but it can get scary when you extrapolate it to other things. Because unique and memorable events slow down time, getting into a routine makes time go faster because your days are all the same. And that's kind of what adulthood is. For me, time was moving very steady until I was 16, 17.
I definitely feel like time was super slow for a long time. Time feels really like a lot more fast now for sure. I think that's also just like a scientific phenomenon within your brain where you process things faster as you get older. So time feels quicker. But yeah, I definitely have noticed that like before, like, I don't know, 16, I don't know. I'd say before like around the time I was 18, I feel like things started to really speed up. But before that, things felt so slow. But I was also in high school doing a lot of things I didn't want to do. I was just bored. So yeah. He's 20, keep that in mind. Well, yeah, I mean, I realize that, but I'm 21, so I'm not that much of a different position.
And by this time the lockdowns hit, I didn't have a graduation. I just started taking online classes at a community college, and my days started bleeding together. These last few years, I feel, were robbed from me. I was a late bloomer, so I was pretty most of my life, never dated in high school, and after this, my friend groups broke apart, scattered to different universities.
Yeah, I mean, the common experience, but I promise you, Gerbert Johnson, you won't, within 5 years, this won't even matter. This will be such a non-issue, you won't even think about this.
States and programs.
Why is bro admitting this? It's fine to admit to this. It's cool even for people to relate to it. But I just feel like, dude, once you get, I don't know. When's this video made? He was 20 when this video was made. This is a year old. This is from 2023, June. I promise you, dude, someday you won't give a fuck about what you missed in high school.
Once in a while, but there's no group anymore, no shared community. It's not the same. Through doing the research I've done on this channel and really looking at other people around my age, I've noticed stunted growth of this generation, specifically men, on a wide scale. You could point to many things that demonstrate the arrested development of this generation. Men dropping out of the labor force, the college entrance rates being 60% women, 40% men, and the graduation rates being even more skewed at 70-30. Some people say these men are avoiding college.
The past is filled with regrets. My past is not filled with regrets. There's definitely things that, like, I guess when I think about it really hard, I'm like, I wish that went differently, but my past is not filled with regret. I feel like what you should be doing is just, you can't ruminate on that. You can't change what already happened. So you should just be focusing on how you can change things now. Like, you can't ruminate on what happened in the past or you'll never move past it. You can think about it. You can, you know, at a certain point in time, it's good to reflect on your actions or the actions of others and how things went. But you have plenty of time for regrets? You don't, actually. You don't have plenty of time for regrets. You're going to die someday. Every second you're alive, you're barreling closer to death. So when something bad happens, you should, like, you know, acknowledge it. Acknowledge where you f***ed up or where the other person f***ed up. Acknowledge what you could have done to change the situation. And move on instead of ruminating on it for a long time. You have to trick your mind, basically. Because your mind will sometimes trick you, like, oh, you should think about this. Think about, like, you don't have to, actually. You don't have to. You don't have to think about your past friendships. You don't have to think about your past girlfriends. You don't have to think about all that shit. You don't have to. You should analyze, try to impartially. You can even write it down in a notebook, like, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? How can I avoid this in the future? What did I do? You know, all of that. And then you just move past it. You can't ruminate on the past too much. It will ruin you. I've known so many people that ruminate on the past so much. That's all they talk about. It's so annoying, bro. I find it so obnoxious when people are just constantly obsessed with what happened in the past. Think about the present and the future, like what you can do going forward. Don't constantly be thinking about what happened. Don't allow yourself to be a victim of life.
You're dropping out to pursue some greater ambition, like starting a business. And while that may be the case for some, it was probably the idea for most of them. Let's just be honest, a lot of these guys are just less people are getting driver's licenses. You could point to the rate of single men and lonely men with no brotherhood. This is something I talk about a lot in other videos, so I'm not going to go into depth in the statistics, but having human relationships is a big part of growth.
You ever meet someone and all they can talk about every time you talk to them is, my old friend did this, my old friend did this, my ex-boyfriend did this, my ex-girlfriend. Shut up and get over it! Go to the gym. Move on.
Growing up, learning how to grow and maintain connections and provide value. This is true for platonic relationships, but it's also true for romantic as well. It's a part of maturing, but a lot of men don't even get their foot in the door now. This arrested development is also demonstrated by Gen Z's obsession with escapism and fantasy. And it's cool if you like these sort of things, but the amount of people I see make it damn near their whole personality is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's because nothing interesting is going on in their real life, so they have to invest their entire life in anime.
And this is because community is dying and culture alongside it. Nobody has a real sense of self anymore. When I look around at young people my age, a lot of them are submerged in this escapism, whether it be anime.
Wow, having a hobby is bad. That's not what he's talking about. And if you took it that way, you probably are the kind of cringe person he's talking about. He didn't say having a hobby is bad. Everyone has hobbies and interests they participate in. What he's saying is that all these people have they invest themselves in is their hobby. And that can be cringe. It can be.
Video games, the hub, weed and other drugs, usually a combination of most of these things. It's what they spend most of their time doing. And in a way, it's kind of what they live for. This is also sort of connected to rampant consumerism, which is childish. Being obsessed with fantasy is a childish trait. This isn't to say that all Zoomers are like grown-up children. I know a lot of people that are making good progress. They're growing up, they're doing good. But it's a scary amount. And a lot of these guys who live this sort of lifestyle, they're really smart too. Like they had a lot of potential, but it's just it's over now. I'm 20, but I haven't really lived that much for my age in terms of experience, which, as I talked about earlier, slows down time, especially when compared to someone like my great-grandfather when he was 20 years old, who, while being technically the same age as me, would have already lived way more and kind of longer. He experienced more growth, more character development.
Yeah, well, society was harder back then, When my grandfather and great grandparents were in their 20s, they were like fighting in wars. Korean people, The world was in crazy turmoil. I feel like we're headed for that now, though, with the way things are going. Things are heating up, there's war in Ukraine right now with Russia. There's war in Israel with Palestine, war in Palestine with Israel. It looks like something might happen in the South China Sea with Taiwan. We're headed for interesting times. I don't want to be alarmist or anything, but I feel like things are heating up right now with the globe. So maybe we'll be forced in those experiences.
There are even arguments rooted in physiognomy that claim men today look younger and more childlike than men of previous generations, because this lack of experience and responsibility can manifest itself in your physical appearance.
Well, yeah, men in the past had a ton of stress. They had a lot more stress. Not that there isn't stress now, but they had a different kind of stress. They had like war stress, smoking cigarettes all day to cope with it. Now, what kind of stress do we have? A job can be very stressful, but the thing most people are looking forward to is like the next episode of, I don't know, what is the anime people watch now? I don't even know.
Which is debatable, but it's an interesting concept. You could also point to the home ownership rates and the amount of people still living with their parents, which is mainly an economic issue. I'm not going to blame that on video games or whatever. And in other cultures, they do that anyway. I moved out and I kind of regret it. But the truth is, a lot of these people who are living with their parents also just happen to be not doing shit. After graduating from high school and not going to university, I didn't really consider how much it would isolate me. The truth is, college has sort of monopolized socialization for young people. And I talked about this a little bit on my second channel. That video didn't even get a whole lot of views compared to my other ones, but the amount of people who sent me emails that were resounding with it showed me how true it is. It sucks because college now for many people isn't a smart financial decision unless you have some sort of scholarship or financial aid, or you're really hell-bent on becoming an accountant. If you graduate high school, you start going straight to a trade, straight to the professional world. You're going out doing all these things by yourself. You look around and everyone's older than you. And you find out quickly how atomized, how individualized people are, how hard it is to find a community. I just thought that's something I'd mention for anybody graduating high school or about to graduate high school. If you're not going to go to college, you gotta weigh that in. You gotta understand that you'll probably isolate yourself because a lot of your friends are probably going. Your social circle is going to split apart, and there's not going to be a group of young people around you anymore. You'll go outside and everybody's 40. I was talking to my parents the other day at lunch, asking them about when they were my age.
I feel like I'm weird. I feel like I'm weird for not feeling this way. I don't really mind it. To be honest, I feel like the most happy times of my life are when I've been like the most productive and also like not socializing that much with people, right? Like I feel like the times I've been like less happy has been when I've been having like a lot of like pointless social interaction, just like very fleeting. Maybe it'd be different if I was having like a lot of meaningful social interaction.
My parents were dating when they were 19. I've never been in a relationship. I've only fooled around with girls I couldn't care less about. They talked about all these people they met when they were my age that I now know today. They were telling me these stories, and it all just seems so natural. Like they didn't have to think twice about it. And I felt uncomfortable in comparison because none of these things happened to me. And I'm similar to my parents. I'm genetically them.
What happened with Charlie and me? Excellent question. Maybe it was your mom. Maybe your mom was involved in some way. I couldn't say, but it might have been your mom.
What sucks is that I'm overthinking about all this to a degree that makes me weird, that my dad never had to think about. I've gone through all these phases, self-improvement, reading all these books, devising a plan to stop touching my worm and looking at hentai, black pill, jawline, can't thou tilt. It's like, geez, man, how did I get here? A lot of these things were just supposed to happen. So this is the image of what this era is creating.
I understand his like concern of wanting to miss out, but once again, I feel like a large part of the issue here, not that being a Zoomer doesn't have unique problems, but I'm going to be somewhat anti-Zoomer / anti-incel here. Not this guy is an incel, but I feel like this is a very defeatist mindset. And once again, like, you're ruminating a lot. The way that your parents had those experiences is by going out and doing things, right? By pursuing a career, by pursuing an education, by pursuing those social interactions that then came to be, right? But the thing is now, like, once again, there is this kind of illusion of options where there's more options than ever, right? You don't have to get a job where you are in life, like physically in your community. Before it kind of seemed like there was a more clear path for like what you do. And now it's like you can do anything, right? You can do anything. The problem that can come with that, what is the problem that can come with that? It's kind of like when you have Netflix. This is the comparison I'll use, okay? In the past, people just had like a much more limited pool of things to enjoy in terms of like TV. You just kind of had to watch what was on. If you want to watch a movie or something, you have to go buy it in person. It was like a much more physical process. Same applies to movies, right? But now you have Netflix, and in theory, you should be watching watching whatever you want, right? You should be watching the best stuff. But ultimately, people end up watching way more trash because there's so many options and it's so easy to access them. Versus in the past, you kind of just had to watch whatever people wanted you to watch. So, on one hand, like mediocre stuff was pushed way more. But by that same token, like people also had these shared experiences around great pieces of media. And the same thing I think kind of applies to a lot of aspects of modern life where like you have you have so many options you can partake, so many paths you can take. But the result of that is that you're indecisive. You don't know what to do. You feel like directionless. Versus in the past, there was a more like clear, defined way that you had to go. Does that make sense, what I said? I feel like what I said makes sense.
Atomized, disconnected people with no identity or greater purpose than to consume. You don't grow, you don't mature, you're dependent on your parents, or you live in a tiny apartment where you don't know your neighbors. You come home from work, or you don't work at all.
Yeah, nobody knows their neighbors now. I did notice that. Like my grandparents knew every person who lived on their street and were like even friendly with them. I moved into a house. I have no idea who lives around me. They never talk to each other. There's no cookout. There's no block party. Nobody knows each other. We're all in our own little worlds. And like in a time when we're more connected than ever, seemingly through the internet, we're actually less than ever because we have so many, once again, like fleeting parasocial interactions, but very little real life social interactions. But I mean, I think this is a thing you can choose to escape. Once again,
just to cope through fantasy, through escapism, drugs, and technology. You your sex robot and you take your medicine. You don't have a family, but you got a lot of products. Say whatever you want. Ignore me at your own peril. But this is no mistake. This was planned for you. And even though all of this is happening, I'm still young. You might be too. You still decide your own future.
True.
I could stay up in this basement, comfortable, too scared to change, with my gamer chair and computer with the RTX whatever in the confines of the underground prison, watching seasons pass like days, a child in a man's body, just living to farm dopamine from games and the internet, the flesh merging with machine as the world burns. This is the life that so many young men like me live. But it ain't gonna happen to Daddy. I don't think so, pal. Daddy's gonna make a change. And you can too. Anything is possible with a good plan. It is harder now. These videos on my channel.
I like that he ended on a positive message. The first 7 minutes I felt very doomer, but I like that he's ending on a positive note where you can change things if you want. The problem isn't accessibility. The problem is people only know what algorithms deliver to them. 90% of movies and shows ever made are only a few clicks away. People don't know about it. I mean, once again, it's indecision. With so many options, they don't know what to choose, and they just choose trash. Tom, you know there's no big conspiracy to make people less attached to each other and just consume like this guy's suggesting, right? It's a byproduct of technology. Yeah, I completely agree. There's no, like, large force. The only conspiracy, if there is any, is just that companies want advertising dollars, so they want people to spend time online on, like, YouTube and shit like that. What locations I already recommend to socialize with people under 25, assuming you don't know anyone there? I have no idea. Okay, once again, I'm not a good example because I'm, like, an autistic person. I don't like to socialize. I like to be alone in my house all the time. And I don't go I mean, I guess bars or something. I don't know. But I haven't really met anyone that I didn't know at a bar that was like a meaningful connection. So I don't know. I don't do that. That's just not my thing. I guess like concerts probably. That's probably a good place to go. Local music shows, yeah, because you might have stuff in common with them. Not like huge concerts, like smaller shows or whatever, depending on what music you're into. You might meet people there, but I don't really know, dude. That's just how I just like to be in the house all the time, to be honest with you. And it hasn't changed like almost no matter what, you know, like that's been consistent throughout my life. Like when I've had like a long-term girlfriend, I have not wanted to like go out and socialize with people more. It doesn't change, you know. Isn't loneliness correlated with premature death? It might be, but it also depends on if that loneliness causes like undue harm in your mental health, which I personally don't feel. I have a pretty good mental baseline to like not be crazy, and I also just enjoy being in my house all the time, to be honest with you. Like the times that I come out of my house are like once a week to eat dinner with my parents. Every day I go to the gym, so there's that. And then like when I have to do like groceries or like that, I have to go out of the house. But generally, I like being in my house, to be honest with you. That's what I like doing. That's what I want to do. And when I had an apartment, I wanted to be in the apartment, you know? Sometimes there are times when I'm like, man, I got to socialize with people more, you know? And I'll go do that. I'll hang out with people. And then when I do that, I'm just like, actually, I wanted to be back in my bedroom the whole time. And then I go back. What, do you endorse? Exercise is good. You should probably do that. I feel like exercise is pretty good for you. So I'd highly recommend that. All right, I'm glad we watched that video. That's pretty interesting. Death Note shirt. Time talk more like Time Weave. Death Note is like the most popular anime. Well, maybe it's not. It's the one good one, okay? Death Note's really good. It's not as corny as the other ones. And it's generally actually written very well. So, you. That's different.